This afternoon, in the final of our series of 3, Pivot Your Life, we're going to be looking at mastering your emotions. In the first 2 episodes of this series, we learned a meditation that was going to teach us to anchor our lives. We did some work on creating our own space, which was safe. And then we practiced a process that allowed us to pivot our life and to move in a different circle to which we did when we first started out. In today's session, we're going to unpack our emotions a little. One of the big things with emotions is that most people don't get to master them because, first and foremost, they don't understand them. Emotions are made out to be highly complex and difficult issues by both scientists, psychologists and psychiatrists, whereas in fact they are fairly simple. An easy way to look at this is, if I ask you, how are you feeling? You could very quickly provide me with an answer. And that answer is attached to the emotion which you're feeling right now, or the emotion that springs to your subconscious mind in the first instance when you're asked that. The reason why emotions are fairly simple is because they're controlled by hormones. Hormones are chemicals which impact on the way we feel, impact on our brain, impact even on mood swings or how we treat other people. Because they are hormones and chemicals, diet and exercise are significant parts of how we master our emotions. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into mastering our emotions. The third in our series, Pivot Your Life. As already mentioned, hormones are simply chemicals. What's unusual about them is that there are tiny amounts of them in our bloodstream at any given time, and some of them act only on minute receptors in the brain. They don't actually act on cells throughout the body all over. They tend to act on sensors within our brain. And it's for this reason that diet and exercise play such a huge role in how we feel. Diet, because that's where we get the hormones from, and exercise, because that triggers the production of those hormones within our body. To demonstrate this, I thought I would just quickly go through one of the feel-good hormones, serotonin. Serotonin is one of a group of hormones that's often called endorphins. It's best known for its role in the runner's high. To give you some idea of the amounts of this hormone that are in the body at any given time, a normal range is considered between 0.05 and 0.2 parts per million. So when I say it is tiny amounts of this chemical, that's exactly what I mean. Now, serotonin is one of the things that's obtained directly from a good diet. So we find it a lot in green leafy vegetables and chicken, meat, and so on. And basically, it's if you have iron in something you're eating, there is a good chance that one of the byproducts that's also absorbed at the same time is serotonin, or its original chemical which the body then synthesizes. Exercise is one of the times where serotonin is released, and serotonin has been linked to depression, anxiety, nausea, and lack of sleep. So it's obvious that when we say serotonin is a feel-good hormone, that is the best way of describing it. Somebody who's done a lot of work in the emotions came up with a model that looks like a flower when you fold it out. And if you can imagine this all folded up, he creates a sort of a circular little pyramid, which has 8 points at the top of it. But those 8 points are actually 2 circles of 4, or 2 blocks of 4, of which one is the opposite of one of the others in what they call the foundational hormones. Now, this guy's a well-recognized emotional specialist. His name is Plecnik, and he's famous for this emotional wheel. Now, I'm going to send you this, and it'll be in the video, so feel free to stop and have a good look at it. Do some background reading on it, because he talks quite specifically how the central emotions, which act on the core of the human being, they're the ones that are represented by the spokes in the center of the wheel. And emotions, in his model, tend to become more severe as they progress inwards towards the spokes on the wheel. The primary emotions, the 8 of them, tend to trigger behaviors which have a high survival value, or the same way as we end up fear inspiring a flight-fright response. Say that in a hurry. Now, often when we ask somebody how they're feeling, or we tend to actually say, "How are you?" we get this answer, "Oh, I'm fine." Strangely, fine is not actually an emotion, and it's not actually a feeling. And so every time somebody asks us, "How are we?" and we answer with "I am fine," we demonstrate how difficult it is for us to talk about our feelings. When we look at it slightly differently, and we picture ourselves as one of the 2 little critters here. You could be big brother hanging off the branch, holding little brother by 2 toenails. And when we start to identify an emotion, we ask the question, how do you feel? Not how are you feeling, not how are you, but how do you feel? Because that gives the person we're talking to the opportunity to tell us how they feel. And they express it out loud. And by expressing it out loud, after a time, they come to understand that that's okay. And when we're talking with somebody about this, as a mentor or a coach, we then look at the reason for a purpose or feeling. Now, I'll give you a little example. There's a member of my family who felt flat and blasé about his whole life. Everything he was doing, everything he did, and he had a pretty good life. And he simply thought, that's just how life is. That's how I am. And he felt that way for 30 years. He just existed in a low-level depressive state for 30 years. And the reason he existed like that was because nobody ever told him or helped him identify that feeling of this low-level depressive state was not normal. So at one stage, a doctor asked him how he felt, and he said, "Oh, you know." And the doctor didn't let him get away with it. And from that conversation, my brother got the help he needed. And I remember distinctly when he said to me, "I never realized that it was okay to feel good. I have never felt good in the whole of my life." Now, as a coach, we could use scientific measures of hormonal imbalance and try and measure those and what have you. But as you saw, they are minute particles, and they can be influenced by so many things. And they can only be verified accurately with really, really high quality and very expensive testing equipment. So we tend, in fact, to look at the other end. And this is a branch of science that's very imprecise. And it's imprecise because it depends on the person who is asking the questions, the person who is trying to get you to express your emotions. It's up to them to recognize and look for different prompts and different energies that help them or helps us determine how you're actually feeling and what we might do about it. And when we don't master our emotions, or if you are exploring emotional intelligence for yourself, it always shows up energetically. And that's where you get, "Oh, I'm fine." In turn, energy or reactions, responses guide clients towards finding a best pathway forwards. And as both a business and an emotional coach, who works in the meditation space, it helps me to identify emotional blocks so that clients themselves can engage with their feelings at a much, much deeper level. Now, when people get the opportunity to engage with their emotions at a deeper level, we're able to look for dominant emotions. We're able to look at patterns and determine whether patterns are normal or not. We're also able to look for the source or the trigger for a pattern, and we look at ways which we can decrease the impact of the trigger. And this helps people who can't connect with their emotions realize that what they're doing is perfectly normal. Now, remember how we've already set an internal anchor and created a safe space? There was a reason for doing that, and this is the reason: to allow you the opportunity for emotional engagement at a very deep level. Now, most negative groups of feelings arise from stress points that are outside of our being. That's the first thing about the emotional engagement. The second thing is that how we feel is often the result of an incident that's occurred in the past, not something that's going to happen in the future. I haven't got the statistics around it, but in terms of being stressed over what could happen, it's a far, far lower rate than what has happened or the way we have been treated and how that made us feel. So we're going to travel deep into our control zone, where we're anchored and we're clear to find the outcome that we want. Now, I'm going to show you what we're going to do in the midst of our meditation today. And that is basically, we're going to work out ways of eliminating or disempowering negative emotions. And the first thing you do is you ask why. Why am I feeling this way? Am I eating badly? Am I not exercising? Am I not getting enough social engagement? Am I not grateful for what I have in my life? Do I have an unreal perspective or understanding of my life or where I'm going? If we take a long-term view of our emotions in our lives, our workplaces, or our relationships, then we're dealing in the field of emotional intelligence. Now, emotions require constant consideration prior to words or actions. Emotional intelligence is the ability to include, on the basis of well-being and safety, emotion in the decision-making process. Our EQ, or emotional quotient, improves with practice, meditation, and mentoring. And emotional intelligence allows us to make wise decisions that ensure our emotional well-being and safety. I'll give you an example of how our emotions can be used to balance our physical state. I'll use an example of a baby because I don't have any babies on the call. In terms of recalibrating our hormones, there's a classic tool that babies use regularly and consistently, and they don't even know they're doing it because it's considered natural. Crying When children cry, it balances their hormones. What happens is this: if a child is stressed, it produces cortisol. That's released through crying. At the same time, crying also produces endorphins, and the process of crying leaves us feeling calm, relaxed, and tired. And yet we all know that men don't cry. So there are times when tears, great emotional heartache, and often the sorts of things that literally rip out your insides, end up with you crying yourself to sleep. And what happens is that sleep is deeper and you awake from it refreshed with greater clarity. And you have a more powerful way to remain positive constantly because you have greater clarity, and allows you to feel grateful. And at the Alpha Potential, we use a process called the Center of Gratitude, which links 5 different areas of gratitude into one process. Now, what I would like to do now is for us to gently close our eyes. And once your eyes are closed, take a deep breath. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at a process that you can use for any emotion which you feel at any time. So as you breathe deeply and turn your eyes and your attention inwards, I want you to just simply relax every part of your body. Relax your limbs. Allow your feet, if they're on the floor, to be firm and stable. If you're lying down, allow every muscle to sink in to the stable foundation of the earth, which is bigger than you. Breathing in deeply, holding, and breathing out slowly. And as you breathe, I want you to notice where you can feel the air. First of all, can you feel it around your nostrils? Is the air that you're breathing in cold in the back of your throat, or is it warm? Is it dry, or is it moist, humid? And notice as the air travels all the way into the center of your being, I want you to notice whether you feel it in the base of your lungs, right down, almost in your stomach, it feels like. Or is it your chest rising and falling in your solar plexus? Or is it up in your throat, in the top of your chest, just below your throat? Now, while you're looking for that, just take another deep inhale. Notice where you feel the air. Hold, 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 and slowly, 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 slowly release. When you breathe in the next time, I want you to pay attention to the dominant emotion that the air collides with inside your body. What is the dominant emotion? breathing in to that emotion. As you next breathe in, notice the emotion. And as you breathe out, ask yourself, can I let this go? Breathe in. Can I let this go? Now you know what the dominant emotion is. Look now for the source of it. Why do you feel that way? What caused that emotion to be the thing that you notice in today's meditation? What is it that caused the emotion? Now I just want you to notice that you are in a safe space. And I also want you to notice that you are anchored and secure in your safe space. And more than the emotion, notice that this meditation is in fact about looking for the source of that emotion. How does it make you feel? Does it give you joy? Is it something negative? Who is the person or the people, the situation, which is linked to your feeling that emotion? And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a thing called timelining. And if you imagine a line that starts somewhere and ends somewhere. And I want you to imagine yourself turning back and looking back at the place where this emotion was triggered. Looking back, maybe you're looking over your shoulder, or maybe you turn and look back into the situation where the emotion was triggered. If it was a negative thing, notice who else is involved. If it is a positive thing, notice how it made you feel. Breathing deeply, breathing slowly, following the process. And now I want you to imagine yourself floating out of your body, floating up above the line that is your stream of time, back in time. And I want you to float back, not to the situation you were just looking at, but to the first time that you can remember, the first instance of coming face to face with that emotion. with no judgment, but merely as an observer. See yourself above the position where you first came into contact with that emotion. And now, just as if you're sitting in a gold-class movie theatre, the most comfortable seat in the house, imagine yourself gradually descending into the first time you experienced that emotion. Slowly descend into the stream of your time in history. And I want you to land there, but you are looking forwards to today. So that's the direction you're facing. And as you are looking forwards, you see like you are in a movie theatre, in 3D reality. All around you, you notice the scenario that triggered that emotional response. And again, if it was a negative thing, I want you to pay attention to the other people in your movie. Not you. You are merely an observer. You're merely a moviegoer who has a ticket to the Gold Pass. And that golden pass has given you the best seat in the house. And you can watch the whole scene play out in front of you. Look up to the left by just moving your eyes in their socket without moving your head. Look up to the right. Was there something, someone that you missed the first time when you first experienced this emotion? Look down to the right. Sliding just your eyes, look across as far as you can to the left. Let your eyes travel upwards. Travel to the center. Travel past the center to the right. All the way to the extremities of your vision. Notice the sounds. Notice the people. Notice the background noise. And notice what other things were at play that you didn't see the last time you were here. Just notice them. Now take a deep breath. And as you draw that breath in, notice that you are feeling that emotion. And you're feeling it just as real back then as you did today. And yet, you are merely a moviegoer watching the scene in your own life. Deep breath. When you take your next deep breath in, you're going to notice that your beautiful, comfortable gold-class chair is going to drift up out of the scene. Breathe it up, breathe it up, breathe it up. And as you're above your stream of time, you're going to move forwards. You thought that you were going to stop at today, but instead you keep moving forwards. And you move to some time in the future. You move to the time in the future when the lesson from the movie that you just saw needs to be applied. And you're going to float down into your time stream, and you're still seated in your chair. It could be that you are seated 5 minutes from today, from right now. It could be 5 hours. It could be 5 days. It could be the next major event when the same group of people are in the room that you're going to be in. It could be that it is an undetermined time because the lesson was for today, not the future. Breathe in and breathe out. When you next breathe in, notice that in fact your emotion, your dominant emotion, has a color. And as you draw that color in through your nostrils, it's going to mix with the air, and it's like powder. It's like when you pour ink into water and it swirls around. It doesn't completely color the water, but it leaves swirls of the color. Breathe out slowly. As you breathe in again, you notice that it swirls more, and the water begins to change color to the color of your emotion. Breathe it out. Breathe it in again, and as you breathe it in again, notice that there is a noise attached to your emotion, a sound, along with the color. Breathe it in and notice both of them flow together because they are part of the emotion. They were part of the emotion the first time you experienced it. They are part of the emotion, the lesson, the feeling which you have today. And now you're going to impact with a new emotion. You're going to look for a moment at the lesson and realize that although you thought the lesson was for you, it is in fact for those around you. Because the lesson is your emotional intelligence and your connection with your emotions, your anchoring with your emotions. At that point where you realize that it is okay to feel this way. And with your strong anchor and your clarity of vision, with your emotional awareness, notice that it is okay to bring up your feelings and your emotions in conversation. And last of all, notice that your emotions drive your passions. And they drive your passions in your work. They drive your passions in your relationship. They drive your passion in your choices. They actually drive you. And now I want you, with your next in-breath, to draw in the feeling of that knowledge, the power of that emotional connection with your anchor with great clarity. Draw it in Hold it in for a moment. And very, very gently breathe it out. When you breathe it in the next time, I want you to push it out into your hands and into your legs. Push it out into your limbs. And realize that emotions are chemically based. And if they are chemically based, then they are bonded through energy. And so draw in the energy of life, your breath. Draw it in deeply, and let it out slowly out through your mouth. On the next breath, as you draw it in, we're going to breathe out what we call a lion's breath. Allow your tongue to come out and feel the air coming out across your tongue. And you're going to repeat that once more. Breathe it in. And now as you breathe in gently the next time, notice that your gold pass chair floats up with you. And it just carries you softly, as if you were on the clouds themselves. Softly, softly, softly. Back into your safe place. The place into which you are anchored with clarity. Into a place from which you can pivot your life today, knowing that you have emotional mastery. For if we can't master ourselves, we cannot hope to master finances, careers, relationships. Breathe it in and slowly out. Now what I would like you to do is place your right hand on your abdomen, on your stomach, quite firmly, so you can feel the warmth of your hand now. And I want you to place your left hand into the dip that is your sternum across your heart. And if you're very, very aware, you can actually feel the beat of your heart beneath the palm of your hand. And as you're feeling these breath and heartbeat, I want you to imagine for a moment that the hands which are holding you are the hands of somebody that you love. One on your stomach, one on your heart, one on your life force, your being, and one on your emotional center. And feel the warmth of the energy of their hands. And now I want you to reverse that process. As your hands are on your own body, I want you to imagine that you take your hands and place them on somebody that you love, for whom you have set aside this meditation for emotional control. And let them feel the warmth of your healing hands. Let them feel the energy that is burning in you right now. breathe it in and breathe it out. Connect to the emotion. Very gently let the hands relax and wriggle your fingers, wriggle your toes, and gently open your eyes. And as you do, I want you to look across at the image on your screen in this meditation. And notice the hand that is reaching out to a very unusual recipient. Because in today's session, you've learned how to engage with your emotions. You've understood what it feels like to engage with your emotions. And I want you to take it to the next level and let the emotion that you have connected with, the feeling that you have connected with, that gave you the energetic release, that burning in your hands, and take it to somebody who is not expecting it from you. I can't tell you who that is, I can't tell you what that means, but you know. And I would love it if you could get back to me and let me know what this emotion and what this meditation has meant to you today. And I don't want you to do it verbally, as we've done with some of the others. I actually want you to do it in the notes below the video. And there are some of us who need to move further because the position you're in is rather unsafe. The position that you are in, you feel as if the world is against you. But although you might feel that, there is an anchor and a way forward, and it is not what you expected. And that way forward is the center of gratitude. The center of gratitude teaches us how to be positive, proactive, and happier. It improves our sleep. It helps us be more resilient. It creates a positive outlook when all the news stories are negative. There are dozens of health benefits from things as simple as people who work in offices and get headaches in the afternoon say they don't. From doctors working in ERs who diagnose correctly and faster 11% more of the time when they have developed their center of gratitude. From people on direct selling phones whose productivity and closing of sales improved by 37% in one study. To firemen and nurses who made decisions based on no rational thing other than their own internal feeling that this is right. And of course, it lowers your stress levels, and it gives us the ability to ripple our gratitude out to others around us. If you'd like to talk further about that, you can see there that it is 5 weekly one-on-one sessions that last approximately 60 minutes. There's a small amount of homework, which often consists of some reading, a video, or a high-quality study that's written in user-friendly format to allow you to fully understand and allow your brain to be happy with the fact that a positive outlook from the center of gratitude is something you can achieve, and it will change your life. And I know that we have clients that I have dealt with over many years, from football players in the AFL to teachers in rural and remote Australia, to lawyers with severe mental health issues, to accountants who have built strong, positive staff teams, and then down to individuals who have had businesses that they've built up from the ground up. And I've helped people now, I've actually helped, I think, 12 or 14 different people build multi-million-dollar businesses from scratch. And one of the processes that we start very early on is the center of gratitude. Now, they've had to work on their business and do all sorts of other things. It's not a walk in the park by any means. However, later on in their journey, when they had seen the success that they were thinking was not possible to them, one of the things that they always refer back to is the center of gratitude. And recently I've had the opportunity to rebuild somebody's life with them. After a car accident which nearly killed them, left them in a coma for 3 weeks, and they thought that that was the end for them. That person, we rebuilt his brain and his body, put them back together in such a way that he says to me still today, the one thing that I got from our early sessions was this: 3 gratitudes, and I use it every day. It changed my life. And every time I hear him say it, I am so grateful to have been given the opportunity to help him move to the next level. So if you're interested, please get in touch with me direct. You know where to find me, on WhatsApp or via email. And I'm happy to provide the Centre of Gratitude as a program that we work through with. It can be done virtually over the phone, so while we're in a state of social isolation or social distancing, that is not a problem. I trust you've enjoyed this afternoon's session, and I would love you to leave your comments below so that other people can see the benefit of connecting with their emotions and no longer being scared of them. Thank you, and do whatever it takes to be grateful tomorrow.